Gig Gab, episode 494 for Monday, August 11th, International Hip Hop Celebration Day 2025. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Gig Gab, the show by, for, and about working musicians. Our sponsor for this episode is themlc.com because they want to make sure that if you have earned money from streaming, that you get paid. So make sure to check them out. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Here, as usual, in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton. And, most of us are lucky if we get to play one gig that changes our lives, right? Our guest co-host today, he has had a whole career of them. He's been the drummer and musical director of the Black Eyed Peas for over 20 years, helped craft some of the biggest hits on the planet, and right now is in the middle of music directing the Backstreet Boys Inside Sphere in Vegas. So more Sphere talk, folks. Yep. 2 Grammys, countless world tours, studio credits a mile long. Let me see if I get my list here. Stories from the road, studio and beyond. Keith Harris is here, folks, and we're going to dig in. Keith, thank you so much for taking some time today to talk with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. So, yeah.
Fun stuff. I've been joking. I'm also a drummer. I've been joking that this is drummer summer on Gig Gab for some reason. Most of the guests that I've had have been drummers, so it's it's just how it works. But it's interesting, and I certainly won't say that this is exclusive to drummers, not by any stretch. But it seems like to be a drummer also involves thinking like a producer with many projects. And again, there are other people who play instruments other than the drums who obviously can think like producers and all of that. But it seems like drummers are more likely to develop that mindset. And I think that has to do with just being on stage and kind of, thinking like a producer on stage, even, at early levels.
I kind of think of it like we are great at dividing space. That's literally what we do, So we gotta
Fair.
have that analytical mind to be able to put things in their own compartments, which kind
Yes.
of, starts the production conversation because, you know, this space is for the horns, this space is for the drum fill, this space is for the keyboards, and this is how I analyze the stage when I'm actually playing.
Yeah.
So,
So,
when I'm doing it, I'm like playing drums as live as if I'm in the studio recording a record.
yes. And I find, and I think part of this perhaps even comes down to sort of the time-honored default position of the drums being upstage center, right? Where we have, from that vantage point, we see everybody. And so I know when somebody's going to go like start singing the next verse, or sometimes more importantly, not start singing the next verse, right? So all right, well, let's keep it big for a little bit because they're not ready to sing yet. Now we can tighten it up, come back down to the hi-hat or whatever it is and set them up
Yeah.
for that, for that transition. So I think that's part of why drummers develop that producer mind. I think so.
But even like what you just said, as far as analyzing what's going on in front of you, some drummers don't do that.
I
I
know.
would say it's a gift.
Fair. I like to think as a drummer, we're a gift to the bands we play in, but that's a whole other thing.
Oh no, we are.
But you're right. Not everybody develops that awareness
Yeah.
throughout it. And if you're listening, no matter what instrument you play, I think it's very good to develop that awareness of how things work. Because not only will it make that show better for you and your band, but it opens some doors to perhaps do some other things like say you have done with your career. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So and you've been 20, if I have my math right, 22 years with the
Yeah.
Black Eyed Peas, drummer, producer, and you are also music director of Black Eyed Peas too. Is that right?
Yeah. So when I first started out, I was just playing drums, and
Yeah.
I've been the musical director for will.i.am, Fergie, and the Black Eyed Peas ever since let's say 2011, somewhere
Wow.
around there. Yeah.
So what was, I mean, we've sort of alluded to that transition in a general sense. What was that specific transition like for you in that band, starting as, just the drummer and then kind of evolving that role?
Oh man, it was great. I just have to worry about playing the drums, not so much responsibility.
That's
It was
fair.
great, man. I just show up. I know the songs. Let's hit them. Let me get out of this rehearsal. It was great.
Yeah.
Now I have to put together the shows. I have to answer a lot of questions, be the father of the stage,
Yeah,
make sure people know their parts, get there on time. You know how it goes.
I do.
But I love it though. I think it's just a part of my personality to want to be a leader like that and make sure the team is riding right and everybody's sounding good. And I'm kind of a responsible guy, so I love the responsibility of being an MD.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And in that transition from drummer to MD, was there anything, was that evolution difficult in terms of now you're directing these people, and were there any hiccups there, or things that skills you had to develop, or did that sort of happen organically anyway?
Well, I would have to say I had been musical directing before I even got to the Peas gig. I used to play in church. I used to,
Got it.
produce live recordings when I was at a school in Boston, Berklee College of Music.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I produced two live gospel recordings at like 18. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it was kind of good with the, managing people type of
Yep.
deal. And then once I got, in the band, and Fatima Robinson, who was our creative director at the time, gave me an opportunity to musical direct this artist named Cheryl Cole out of the UK.
Okay.
So that was my first MD gig, and I had no clue what I was doing. I was just like, what am I supposed to do? Like, do we do this all in one session? Like, do we record the whole show full out in one Pro Tools session? Do we do separate songs? It was like, okay, we
Oh,
just gonna
wow.
record every song in one session. So it was like a lot of on the job training, figuring out my style of how I like to, run shows and do
Yeah.
arrangements. But it was a pretty smooth transition once given the opportunity.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That actually makes sense. I mean, being in a band, it's a team no matter what. I mean, everybody's participating in the shared goal of putting on a good show, right? So
Absolutely.
as long as you have the right people there, then kind of the rest is certainly much easier than it could be.
But I mean, that's a part of the job too. When you don't have the right people, like who you got to make the executive decision to be able to make the best decision for the collective and not individuals, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It is that. So, and I certainly don't want you to call out anybody by name, but can you think of an example of where you had to and succeeded in sort of taking somebody and explaining to them that there's no I in team?
Absolutely. I've had to, fire some people and
Oh,
and
yeah.
shift around some things. I try not to do that, but it
Yeah.
takes a lot for me to get to that point to know like, hey, this is not going to work. And
Sure.
then there are some people where I've worked with, and I'm just like, I will never work with you again. I'll always keep it cordial. Always, keep it, very businesslike. I won't be disrespectful, but on a gig basis, I'm like, nah, I will never work with you again. So,
Yeah.
and those people will never know because, like I said, I'll always keep it cordial because you just never know who will be what later. But,
And
like I
people
said,
change.
yeah,
People evolve. We all evolve. I've certainly been that person in bands that has caused problems. I've been the person in bands who has solved problems. In both circumstances, I knew exactly what I was doing in the moment. I can't,
right.
but sometimes our egos get in the way in not a good way. But yeah, I think that advice of if you can finish out the gig, keep it as cordial as possible, keep it as focus on the product, get it out, and then those people don't have to be at the top of your Rolodex anymore.
Absolutely. And then
Yeah.
a big thing for me too is when, certain things kind of tell me what type of person you are. I'm really big on people's integrity because my name, comes with a lot of weight,
Yep.
You say you work with Keith Harris, it's a certain thing that comes along with that. And also the artist and management, they trust what I do. They trust that when I come on the gig, it's going to be easy. He's not going to bring no knuckleheads. Everybody's going to be very professional and
Yep.
everything's going to be done in a very professional way. So if I have people that kind of go against my motto of how I work and how I run my business, then we got a problem.
Yeah.
So that's, when I run into that, and that's been very rare because I have a
Yeah.
great team of
Yeah.
musicians and people that I work with. But when I do come across that, I do have to handle that accordingly.
Yeah, no, that is part of, part of being any kind of entrepreneur or business owner, but certainly in this business, because as big as it seems, it's pretty small. And
Absolutely.
you develop a reputation for being great, and people will keep calling you. You develop a reputation for not that, and well, people call somebody else, and
Yep.
that you gotta be respectful of that for not just for everybody else, but for yourself too, and be aware of that. No, that makes sense. Huh.
Yeah.
All right, so you've done a lot of studio work, you've done a lot of live work, obviously, and I feel like, and I'm a nerd, so I'm always like interested in tech and all that stuff, but because of tech, but also just because of a lot of things, today's world kind of affords live musicians a lot of the same options that used to only be available to studio musicians. With the one exception of you don't get to erase a mistake. But otherwise, right, there's a lot more technology that we can bring and rely on live that we certainly just didn't in the past. Anything in particular interesting that you kind of noticed in recent years, or any pieces of gear or just that software tech that you're using that you're really excited about that has made positive changes on what you're able to do in a live setting versus just something that had previously been relegated to the studio?
I would just have to say, one thing you can't get rid of is the human feel. Everything is sugar on top.
Yeah,
I've been using triggers and stuff on my drums since they weren't even cool. You know what I'm
sure, sure.
saying? But I would say drummers have the ability to really sound great and interesting now because they can blend the acoustic drums with high quality samples now, instead of like the big fish and like three other sound libraries that used to exist back in the 90s. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, right. Yeah,
And
everything
going
sounded
through
the same.
records. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. So, sampling from records and vinyl and stuff like that. Now, you have your websites like your Loop Masters and Splice and everything else to be able to really make your songs, I'm sorry, your drums and your samples sound unique to whatever form of music that you're using. So I definitely use Splice all the time, man. I'm working on, of course, Backstreet Boys when I did that show. Currently working on Black Eyed Peas. They have a show coming up at SoFi in
Oh yeah.
Los Angeles, opening for Shakira.
Oh, no kidding.
So yeah, so we got two dates there. So of course I'm going in beefing up things and using different samples. That what I'll do is have these things in playback, but if I want to play them live, I'll just put them into my drums so I can trigger them myself. So that's some technology that I always use. I'm a Roland endorsee, so I
Yep.
got the SPD-SX. Uh, and then I'm also using for vocals, which is a really cool thing, Izotope. So
Oh,
Izotope, man, I can't think of the plugin. Actually, I got Pro Tools open right now. Let me tell you
there,
exactly.
there you go.
Oh
I,
yeah, Nectar. Oh, that's it. Oh
oh,
my God.
yep.
It's such a lifesaver. For me, using Nectar when it comes to vocals. So I use that on an album I just produced with Estelle about
Oh,
2 months ago called Stay Alta. So I had her in the studio, and she's like a one take jig. She comes in, me and her on this particular project would get together in the studio. We'll have a song from nothing to completion in 4 hours. And
what?
that's how we knew we had a great song because it didn't take us more than 4 hours to do it, right?
Yeah, you
When
didn't
you're
have to
forcing it,
overwork it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, if you're in there forcing stuff and lyrics and beats and chord progressions, and you're in the studio more than 6 hours, I'm like, that ain't it. So we were on a roll. So we were on a roll, man. And she would go in, lay her lead vocals, and then she would lay individual like backgrounds and little diddly doos. And then she was like, "Okay, I'm done." I'm like, "All right."
Yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah.
so I had to go in there and on a couple songs, I made her background parts using Izotope,
Oh,
using
right.
Nectar.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't even know the difference, but she was like, "Oh my God, you did what? You did all those backgrounds?" I was like, "Yep." So then she got spoiled.
Yeah.
So, so like little things like that that makes the artist happy and then make it efficient, for us to keep moving along and getting the maximum amount of production out of our time.
Yep.
Those are the things I love to use, whether live or
Yeah,
studio.
either way. Yeah. Well, and that's one nice part about just processing power, CPUs, GPUs, whatever it is,
Yeah.
or the Shark processors if you're using the UA stuff or whatever. But the speed of all of that stuff has gotten to a point where you can do so many more things in real time now
Yeah.
that even 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago, would have just been unrealistic. What I'm doing to just record this show in real time, I've been doing this for 20 years, and the tech that I get to use today is very different than the tech that I had to use 20 years ago to make it happen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yep, yeah, it's
But that's
amazing. All right,
that's but I want to say something to you. Like,
yeah.
back in the day, this is the yin and yang of technology and music because you know how it was. It's like, all right, we're using 2-inch tape. Yeah, this is the purest. We're gonna use 2-inch tape. And then here comes Pro Tools and digital audio workstations. It's not
Yep.
pure.
That's not
What are you
yeah.
doing?
Oh,
The-
when
the-
ADAT started, becoming the
yeah,
thing, like it was like, well, wait, that's not pure. I
yeah,
will say, and I've told this story a few times. The first time when I started doing a lot of recording, people were doing, using ADAT, and
yeah,
that's what I had experience with in like home studios or sort of prosumer studios, and it was amazing to be able to do. I
yeah.
mean, it's way better than a Tascam 4-track with a
Exactly.
cassette, right? So like was great. And then I was hired for a studio gig in Dallas, and I went in and set up my drums, and it was just me and the engineer. The rest of the people in the project just hadn't gotten there yet, but I knew I had to get my drums set up, and like I know that's time consuming. So I was there and I set things up, and he set up some microphones, and I played a little bit, and he said, "All right, man, come on in, listen to the sounds that I've got. You let me know, how I'm doing. Like, am I capturing what you're hearing on your drums?" It's kind of the standard thing. So I go in, and the first thing I hear is that kick drum. And this is a kick drum that I'd played with, for 5 years or something. And I'm like, man, what effects, what compression do you have on? Like, that's amazing. He's like, I have nothing on it. That's
Mhm.
nothing. I was like, but no, 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 no. I know what that kick drum sounds like when it's recorded, and this is special. And finally, he's like, "Oh, this is your first time recording to 2-inch tape, isn't it?" It's like, "Oh, yeah,
You're
that's
like,
it."
oh.
Oh, oh, yeah. So there is, but now, now there are ways of capturing things in a digital realm that approximate that to a degree where it's very difficult to tell the difference.
Yeah, but then it's all like you said, it's about the evolution of everything. Because now, even like recording in like Ableton or Pro Tools is like old compared to AI now. You could get Suno, you could just hum a melody into your phone and come out with a full song. So, and then the old guys are like, ah. AI,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's always that evolution and the yin and yang of music and technology and how they merge and how they, makes our job more creative, how we can be the most creative.
Well, and that, I'm glad you brought up AI because it's certainly a controversial topic, especially when it's applied in the arts, right?
Yep.
And like with everything, we are in the process, in my opinion, is that we're in the process of learning where it works well, where it's awful, and we're going to disagree. You might say, "Oh, it works great in this environment." I say, "No, it doesn't." And you know what?
Yep.
We're both right. Right,
exactly.
Throughout, we're learning what we can do with this stuff, and like you said, that allows us to be more creative. So
Yeah, man, it's the growing pains of moving from one era to the next.
Yes, yeah, it is the growing pains. You're right. Yeah, I like yes, but I don't think those growing pains ever go away. We call them different things. Right now we call them AI, but we used to call it Pro Tools, and before that it was ADAT, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
it's a new name.
It's just a new name. Yeah. All right, I want to get to this Sphere stuff that you're doing because we had Robert Scovel on I don't know, a month or two ago when he was mixing Chesney at Sphere, and we got really nerdy about that, but you're kind of approaching it from a different angle. I do want to ask one question before we kind of leave this idea of new sounds behind, because you said something that, you've got these 2 gigs coming up at the SoFi with Black Eyed Peas, and you're pulling in different sounds. Will you tweak your drum sounds in particular, depending on the room that you're playing, the size of the room, or the type of gig, like same band, different, vibe of the gig? Would you use different samples, or would you, splice differently and that sort of thing?
Well, for the Black Eyed Peas, like when I'm using triggers and stuff for my acoustic drums, the sounds are what they are. Whether we're hitting big or small,
Got it.
the band wants to hear the songs like they listening to a DJ. You know what I'm
Got
saying?
it.
So
Yes, I
if
do.
there's 5
Yeah.
people there, they want the drums knocking.
Yep. Okay. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that
so
makes
it's a
sense.
little bit different if I was playing for more of like singers, you know what I'm saying? These are rappers, you know what I'm saying? So they want to feel the impact of the music more so than themselves being on top of it. You know what I'm saying?
That does make sense. Yes, it does. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I just wasn't sure when you said you were kind of selecting sounds. I wasn't sure if that was because of this particular gig in this room, but no, what you say makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I would say because I'm doing a new version of a song, that's why I'm updating it to make it feel fresh, but still be the original. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Just have
Yep.
a little bit more punch, a 2025 punch than 2003 punch.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I mean
Yeah.
that happens. Musicians do this all the time. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about being playing live music live is you get the opportunity to evolve a song,
Yeah.
over years, months, years, decades, and you're still playing the same song. And what a pleasure and treat it is that you get to play the same song. People want to hear the same song.
Exactly.
Like what a wonderful thing, man.
Man, you got that right. That's what keep you working. People still want to hear that song that you wrote 30 years ago. I'll take it.
That's amazing. Yes, absolute. What a charmed life, right? That's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. I want to get into this Sphere stuff. The next thing that I want to do is talk about our sponsor because, well, getting paid for the music you've already made is kind of an important topic, right? If you're a songwriter, music publisher, or administrator, you have to know about our sponsor, the MLC. That's the Mechanical Licensing Collective. They're a nonprofit that makes sure you get your mechanical streaming royalties from Spotify, Apple Music, and other U.S. platforms. Every month, the MLC takes all that streaming data, matches it to your songs, and boom, pays you what you're owed. They've already distributed more than $3 billion to over 55,000 members. That's not coffee money. That's like new guitar, new amp, maybe even small island money. The best part, membership is completely free. If your music is streaming, you might already have unclaimed money just sitting there. We learned that when Dave from the MLC was on the show a couple of weeks ago, right? Don't let it collect dust like that tambourine you bought in 2007. Signing up is quick, easy, and you could put money back in your pocket where it belongs. Because, hey, if you're creating and always being performing, you should always be getting paid too. Go to the MLC.com and sign up today. That's THEMLC.com. Your music, your royalties, your money. Now, go get it. And our thanks to the MLC for sponsoring this episode. All right, so you music directed the Backstreet Boys at Sphere is this project here. Sphere is a different venue. It's a different beast entirely. We talked to, like I said, Robert Scoville, who was at front of house for Chesney, and he walked us through not just mixing in Sphere, but the preparation for it, both kind of at home, but then also in the Sphere simulator that they kind of have out there in Vegas. I assume you went through all of this, but your vantage point was a little bit different, right? Because you weren't at front of house. You're talking about MDing the band. So what was that like? And what were some of the initial challenges that were immediately obvious?
See, I wish I knew you was going to ask me this question because I would have got you the technical software that we use. We used something that was a little bit different from what was at the Sphere
Okay.
because we pre-programmed a lot of our ideas in rehearsal.
Was that
So
Holoplot? Was that the software?
that sounds familiar,
I think that's what
but
Scoville talked about a lot.
yeah.
And
See,
Space
I
Map
think that
Go,
was
I think.
yeah, I think that was something that was proprietary to the Sphere.
Okay.
But what our front of house engineer James McCullough,
Yeah.
he used something different that
Got
gave
it.
us the opportunity in rehearsals to pre-map
Okay.
without the Sphere's gear.
Got it.
So when we got to the Sphere, we were a good 60% to where we wanted to be. So only thing we had to do was kind of incorporate our changes into the Sphere system.
So
So we
was
wasn't
that
starting
might
from scratch.
that might have been Meyer's Space Map Go, because I think that's a more generic, generic's probably a term that Meyer doesn't want me to use, but
Right.
but there you go. But like in terms of like thinking about the musical arrangements and even the placement of the band on stage, did Sphere bring any of that in? I know bands can't make noise on stage, right? You can't have amps on stage. You need to be on in-ears. You aren't using monitor wedges. Was there any of that you kind of had to work through as you did this with Backstreet Boys?
Well, the funny thing about that is there is no musicians on stage.
Oh, right.
That's how good I do my job. If you go to the show, you would think that there's musicians there. We
Yeah.
pre-recorded the entire show.
Oh, so the whole essentially to water it down, and I don't mean to water down what you did, but essentially the whole show is tracked other than what they're singing.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Oh, well, that's got
Yeah,
to make,
so
huh?
yeah, so we went in as the band, we went in March. Hmm. So it took me about a month to work out the arrangements with the creative directors, Rich and Tone, they legendary choreographers, creative directors, and with Baz Halpin, who does all the content with Silent House that works with the Sphere. So we had a meeting, kind of went through the set list, got all the songs together with the boys. Once I got the set list together, then Richmond and myself, we went in the studio and started doing arrangements. Pretty much, we have used a lot of our arrangements from previous tours, like DNA. So, like
Sure.
I said, we use that as a structure. Maybe we cut a second verse or something like that, and I add a little pizzazz. But we went in, my guys, André Bowman on bass, Lance Tolbert on keyboards, and my good friend Curt Chambers on guitar, myself on drums and keys and everything else, and my engineer John Norten. We went in, cut all the songs, and got it sounding right. And what we do is we pretty much do the show top to bottom, solos, transitions, everything all nice and neat in the package. And then as the boys hear the songs, they'll say, "Hey, we want to take this out, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada." So once we laid down our 1 month of music recording with the arrangements, then all departments had the format to work from. So
Yeah.
Baz with the content, they start working. Rich and Tone with the choreography and staging, they started working with the boys for dance rehearsal. So all departments started to work. And then, of course, I would tweak here and there as things were needed, interludes and stuff like that. But yeah, and what we do as well, when we deliver our files, we deliver everything separate. So
Right.
there's
Okay.
no pre-mixing. It's as if it was a live band on stage. So kick in, kick out, snare top, bottom, hi-hat, toms, overheads, every instrument as if it was individual file on stage was
Individually
sent.
mic'd, essentially. Yeah.
Exactly.
Got
So that
it.
gives the maximum amount of flexibility for front of house
Yeah.
to mix it for that venue, right?
Makes
So
sense.
once, James received our sim, then like I said, he has software to kind of pre-imagine where he would place things,
Got
right?
it. Yep. Yep.
So by the time we got to the sphere, we already had an idea what it was going to sound like. And then once we got it there, we were like, oh my God, it's translating very well, the
Great.
clarity. And that was another thing too, in the recording process, we had to make sure everything was recorded clean, no buzzes, no clicks, no
Oh,
pops, because that
yeah.
venue highlights all the space. You know what I'm saying? If there's
For
a
better
bass
and
and
for
you stop
worse.
playing, exactly, and you will hear a bass hump.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you will
Yeah.
hear
You don't
that
want
as
that.
clear as day. Yeah. So, you know, that was a cool thing. Just going into it, knowing what we were dealing with in that capacity, where it made it kind of fun to really be accurate, to really make sure that we're as a band playing things as cleanly as possible, but still feel correct.
That's really interesting, and I'm sure there were some overdubs done, but by and large, was the band playing? Did you play like the bass tracks live together to get that groove and that
Absolutely.
that that human feel? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we all played together. Once I lock down my drum take, I go in there, edit it, and then if any of the other guys need to make any overdubs or edits, they'll just
Sure.
play over, my drum track. But yeah, man, it's a nice compact team. We get in there, we knock it out. Like I said, we what almost 30 songs in 30
Wow.
days.
Oh, dude.
And yeah, man, it's a fantastic show for your audience and people. If you get a chance to see it, do yourself a favor, check it out, because it's not just an audio experience, it's a visual experience as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And depending on what seat you have in the venue, gives you a different experience of the show.
That
So
makes
if you're
sense.
on,
Sure.
yeah, so if you're on the floor, like on the general admission level, you're getting a regular show. Like the guys are there, the stage, they have the trust. So the guys come out, they're really interacting with the audience. Great. And then you can look up and then, experience all the content. But if you're sitting high where you can't see the floor,
Yeah.
you got all of the content and it feels like you're on an amusement park ride because you can't see, you don't have no bearings, you don't see the bottom. So when stuff start moving around in the sphere and the content start moving and the seat starts shaking, the
Yeah.
haptics in the seat, oh man,
Yeah.
it's literally like you're on an amusement park ride. So it's really, really cool.
I've been to Sphere. I saw the Aronofsky movie there, but
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a live show there. And I
Ah,
I mean the Aronofsky movie. Don't get me wrong, That's amazing. I think everybody I think that's also good to see. But I need to get
absolutely.
there for a show. Yeah, that for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what I did. Actually, the first thing I saw there was the DJ,
Oh yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
that was amazing. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So that was my first experience, but it gave me a perspective of the possibilities of
Yeah.
audio and video and how they're telling a story together. So I was like, okay, that's really cool. And then the second thing I saw there was Postcards from Earth.
Yeah. Okay. That's the
Yeah,
Aronofsky movie. That is the
yeah.
movie. Right. Yeah,
So that
exactly.
gives you the full shebang from the wind, the haptics, what they do with audio. That was like the perfect use of the
It
venue. So I'm like, okay, this is what it can do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But all that's what it can do based on what they knew when they created that. And I don't mean that the
Exactly.
capability of the venue changes, but every artist that comes through there takes makes some does some experiments, right? And
Absolutely.
everybody gets
We've
to
done that for
learn
sure.
it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And now you're laying the foundation, or at least you're adding to the foundation for what the
Mhm.
next people
The
that are going to
next, yeah.
design something like, oh, we never thought of that, but they did. Okay,
Yeah.
great. And now I'm really eager to see where
Yeah,
shows
where it
and
goes.
where it goes, even just in 2 or 3 years, like
Yeah.
what are people doing there that we just never thought of? So yeah, I
Because
know.
in a regular show where you have people, flying around the venue and doing all that type of stuff, they haven't even gotten to that point yet.
No,
The Backstreet Boys, they do their stage does lift about
really.
60 some odd feet off the ground.
Oh, that's
So
new.
so yeah, if you got right, so if you guys get a chance, your audience, go to my IG Teeth Harris Experience.
Yep.
I have footage from front of the house, and it looks like a video game. It doesn't look like this is real. So front of house is about 75 feet off the ground. That's front of house.
Yeah, right.
So where I'm standing, the guys are about eye level to where I am. But when you see it with the content, it looks like their platform is moving through a universe.
Oh,
So it's
right.
really, really cool, man. And even them at 75 feet off the ground, they still look tiny.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That place is massive. So as you're sharing, and of course we'll put a link to that in the show notes because I think everybody should see that. But as you're explaining this, this is a video that you took, and what is kind of a shift for me is I didn't quite think about this as we were getting ready to do this, but not only did you get to music direct and play drums and some other things for this show at the Sphere, you then got to go to front of house and watch the show you helped make and you played.
Absolutely.
Not everybody
Absolutely.
gets to do that. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's why I like my job with them because as a musical director, um, normally you're on stage, you're tethered to the drums. I
Yes.
don't get a chance to be out there to help the front of house mix what we did in the studio that I'm very intimate with, you
Yeah,
know?
right. Yeah, they
So
might not
that's
hear a thing that you like,
exactly.
hey, there's a cool thing the guitar's doing here. You might want to know about
Well,
it. Don't
bring
want
that
to
up.
tell you how to do your
Exactly.
job, but yep.
So
Yeah.
that's where me and James McCullough, the front of
Yeah.
house engineer for Backstreet Boys, that's where we work together very well. We've done several tours together, and that's a part of our work. He's like, come up here with me, sit with me, and then we go through it show to show, like, okay, right here, bring this up. Oh, you missed the vocal thing here. And we bounce ideas off each other. And I might have missed something in my recording. He's like, hey, I'm missing a vocal ad lib here. I need you to get that for me. So we have a really good relationship in regards to that, and it's really cool to be able to be at front of house to help mix those things, like you said, and bring out those parts that make the difference. When we're cutting.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lesson to be learned here. And of course not every show is organized the way this one is, where the band is playing, it's happening asynchronously, right? You tracked months before, and now here's this show. But either way, the musicians who are creating the artists on stage, the people who are doing that work, and in this sense, you were just on stage months before, but still, are the ones that know all the nuances of the music intimately, the most, the best. Mm-hmm. And then you essentially hand that trust to the front of house engineer to say, take what we're doing here on stage and please make it sound good in the venue. But the conversation that you're talking about having with James is one that I think doesn't happen enough between bands and front of house, regardless of whether it's a pre-recorded track or a live thing that the band's doing. If front of house doesn't know what you're doing, they can't. I know there's some mind reading that starts to happen as you develop a working relationship and all of that, but still, going out of your way to sit down with front of house and say, hey, in this song, there's a really cool little moment that happens that if you're not highlighting the guitar there, you're never going to notice it, and therefore you're not going to highlight it for the next show either because you don't know, and it's no one's fault, right? So I feel like there's a lesson we can all kind of take away from this here. So yeah, I don't know. You got me thinking, man.
No, I would really say that for front of house engineers, they really have to listen to the music. They have to be a band member. I feel that the front of house and the playback engineer are band members. And if they don't listen to the arrangements, they're doing a disservice to the musical director and the artist.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things, and even in this Backstreet Boys case, it's certain things that they had been rehearsing to, and choreography was made to certain musical moments, and if they don't hear that, they go crazy. So you as a playback engineer, you should be intimately familiar with the musical arrangements. So if they ask you for certain things, you know what they are. And of course, front of house as well. You got to know these arrangements so hey, this is coming up here. It's a nice little transition guitar riff that I think I should ride right there.
Yep.
So yeah, I really think that should be a part of every playback engineer and front of house job.
And front of house, and obviously it's a collaborative conversation,
Absolutely.
But especially for a band that's kind of playing their local circuit and working with different front of house engineers, maybe even coming up with a list of hey, pick one thing per song. You don't want to overwhelm somebody, but you do want to make it so that they can do the best job and they can have fun doing their job. Oh, there's that thing coming up. I want to make sure I catch that, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times we time code things and I'm like, hey, at 42 seconds, this is coming right now. Make sure you turn that up.
Yeah.
So I get very specific on some things just to make sure. And then as I'm watching the show, I'm taking notes. So at the end of every show, I'm passing off hey, here's some things to touch up when you get, some time at your desk.
Yeah.
Or when you get to work with the playback engineer, you guys go through and turn up these parts. Maybe it's something that's not in front of house that needs to be turned up. Maybe it's something in the box that can always be that way, so you don't have to worry about it. So it's just that conversation between the musical director, the playback engineer, and front of house to really come up with a formula of communication to make sure changes are done properly, and also that very integral things that make songs what they are heard.
Yes, because so many times, what makes the magic of a song can be in those, I think I call them events, little things, the transitions or whatever it is. But that little event, that harmony vocal right here brings the chorus, up another level. And if it gets buried, well, then it's lost. That's it, but yeah. This is great stuff. We could keep. I know you've got a time commitment or a time limit on us today. I feel like we could keep having this conversation, but I want to be respectful of your time. So I will say thank you for taking your time and doing this with us, man. Absolutely, what an absolute pleasure. And you've got my mind spinning, which is the whole. That's the point, right? So. Yep.
Yeah. And I'll say, hey, listen, thanks for having me. If we need
Yeah.
to do a part two, let's do it.
All
I'm
right.
totally fine with that because it's a whole lot more stuff that I would love to share
Okay.
with your
Well,
audience.
we will find a time to get back together. Maybe we'll give it a 6 weeks or so, just to
Absolutely.
maybe let some questions come in, and
Yeah,
then
that would
we'll
be great.
revisit. Right, that'd be fun. I didn't prepare you for this, but there are 3 words that we say on this show, and I can certainly say them. I've said them many times, but it's always my pleasure if you would say them. So I put them on the screen here for you, just to make life easy. But if you would, I'd love it if you would share this advice with our audience.
Hey, audience, I need you to always be performing.
Thanks so much, Keith. We'll put a link to your IG in the show notes. Anything else where you'd like me to point people to, or is that a great place?
Yeah, if you guys just go Keith Harris Experience on all social media platforms, you'll
Perfect.
find me there.
Amazing. Keith, thank you so much for taking your time with us. Everybody else, thank you so much for taking your time with us. Feedback at giggabpodcast.com, and of course, Gig Gab Podcast on IG and all the socials. And hey, always be performing, folks. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.